Yeah, Terrell Davis, man, he was spitting some facts out there, and I don't know. Curious. Curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome to another episode of Couch Potato Sports, Denver Broncos edition. However, we're also going to get into the Avalanche and the Nuggets because those are the two Colorado teams we're talking about, of course. But we'll always love our beloved Broncos. But before we get into it, I'd like to note that hockey and basketball, they're coming. It's like Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. We coming. It's right around the corner. And I don't know about you guys. I was watching Jokic do his hype preview of the season. There wasn't much hype coming out of that man because you know how he is. But
all business, baby.
It's funny. There was a video of him walking. I think it was at Ball Arena walking, and they got dressed and all that stuff. But before he was dressed, he was walking in and he was looking just like a sad puppy. And one of the reporters was like, "Jokic, you excited to be back?" And he's like, "Yeah." That man already misses his horses, I'll tell you.
I feel like Jokic he's a walking mullet.
Yeah, the NBA is a side hustle for this man. It's his 9 to 5. He applied to the NBA on Indeed.com. And that's how he views it. And he just casually is the best player in the NBA by far.
Yeah. I think he might have been found on ZipRecruiter. I don't think he actually applied.
Right? It's amazing how another thing, he was asked about Dame joining the Bucks, and his immediate response was, "Oh," like he didn't know. He's like,
probably didn't.
He probably didn't know.
Honestly, yeah.
And he's just like, "Oh, okay. Well, he essentially says, I'm not worried about it. I'm just worried about the Nuggets. I'm worried about who's wearing." He said, "Who's wearing this name on their jersey? I don't care about anybody else." Basically, so he just had that energy. He has that dog in him, you know. And if you weren't following basketball, you would be like, "Wow, this guy does not care at all."
Right.
But when he gets on the court, man, it's magic. It's beautiful,
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see it. We're gonna have the ring ceremony on opening day. I'm gonna be watching that for sure. And then, of course, you got the Avalanche coming back. You know, it's going to be another season without Gabriel Landeskog, which is pretty sad. But we're wishing him. He's doing really well in his recovery. I don't know if you guys have been following that at all or anything, but he had like this miraculous surgery, this new experimental surgery to repair his knee because it was bone on bone, and that is the same injury that ended. What's his name? Marcus Camby. Was it Marcus?
That's right. I think it was Camby.
Yeah, Marcus Camby had the same thing, ended his career, but this is a while back. This is a new surgery that he went through. And if you watch the videos, that man looks like he's on the last leg of ACL tear surgery, like he's getting ready to return. It's amazing.
That'll be good
to hear.
So probably won't see him at all the regular season, which is fine. Come playoff time, though, there's a real good chance that we'll see him back on the ice. So exciting time for Colorado. I know it hasn't been too exciting, minus the Coach Prime stuff. That's been exciting. But as far as Broncos country goes, I've definitely noticed the division between the fan base on whether we tank or we don't tank.
Potentially in this podcast.
Yes, especially in this podcast. And I'll admit, boys, it's been a roller coaster of emotions, and it felt extremely weird getting mad that the Broncos made a great comeback and won the game. It's kind of sad that I didn't allow myself to enjoy that, but that's just where we're at right now. You know, it's just unfortunate.
Me and my brother-in-law were texting each other back and forth throughout the whole game, like explaining why our team was going to lose, because and like trying to like manifest it And my brother-in-law did call it. He said he guarantees Fields will throw one of his miraculous interceptions, and he sure did to end the game. But it was weird, especially because like all my family, who's all diehard Broncos fans, obviously know I'm married to a Bears fan, and they kept texting me all day too, like, "Oh, go Broncos! Screw the Bears! This has got to be good for you." And it was just like hard to be like, "Yeah, go Broncos!" Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, we're totally rooting for the Broncos.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a little sad, and like I said, I've been going through the ringer of emotions, just trying to figure out what this team wants going forward. And I had the opportunity, and it kind of just fell in my lap because I do like listening to Schlereth and Evans in the morning. I do enjoy hearing their
yeah,
opinions.
they're good.
And Evans
Best
is
on that
actually
channel.
side of tanking, whereas Mark Schlereth, being who he is, he's win now, doesn't matter, nothing matters but winning.
Right.
So they had kind of a mediator come on in Terrell Davis, and they did hour and a half interview with him. And God, I love Terrell Davis. He just puts things in perspective. He's like, listen. He was talking to Evans about it because Mike Evans was like, I don't understand the point in winning a meaningless game. I know it's 4 weeks into the season. He's like, but we barely pulled off the win against the Bears, and the Bears are by far the worst team in the NFL. He's like, what is the point? Your schedule is only going to get harder from there because you hit the lowest of the low with the Bears. So it's only going to be harder from there, including the Jets, especially after seeing what the Jets did to the Chiefs on Sunday night. So he's like, TD, how do I convince myself to basically change my mindset about the season? And, you know, he's like, I know Russell Wilson's been doing really good, and he's top 5 in a lot of statistics this year. He's like, but convince
And he's
me.
still getting hated on.
Yeah, he's still getting hated on because of who he is. But
Yeah.
And TD put it like this. He's like, would you rather your football team, the Denver Broncos, to have another losing season with all these brand new rookies that have only won in their lives? They come to the Denver Broncos, and their first impression of the Denver Broncos is that they go 3-14, 4-13, 5-12. He's like, I understand that rookies can be resilient through that, but he's like, look at the last 7 years. He's like, look at Jerry Jeudy, look at Garrett Bowles, look at Justin Simmons, look at all these veterans on this team that has dealt with this adversity their entire career in the NFL. He's like, I would venture to say they forgot what it's like to win. He's like, and that for an organization is an absolute killer, because once you establish a cultural pattern of losing, it doesn't matter the players that you have around. It is so hard to overcome that mental block of just winning and allowing yourself to win in a football game and not subconsciously think, oh, we're up 21 at halftime, we might lose this. He's like, or would you rather the rookies come in who have been playing really solid? He loves Jaleel McLaughlin. Or McLaughlin. Is it Jaleel? Yeah.
Yep, Jaleel.
Okay. He loves him. He loves Marvin Mims. And he had nothing but good things to say about Drew Sanders. He's like, we need to win because we needed what we wanted out of Sean Payton to establish that winning culture. He's like, I don't care. He's like, I don't care if we're not going anywhere. I don't care what draft position we're in. He's like, wherever the dominoes may lie, they're going to lie. And that's going to be, you're going to reap what you sow. He's like, But at the end of the day, if your team is constantly going out there and putting out their best effort to win a football game and taking it week by week, he's like, it will translate. And he's like, Sean Payton's the kind of guy that's going to pull the winning attitude out of these players. He's like, I love Sean Payton. He's like, I've talked with him plenty of times, and he's like, you guys are in good hands with Sean Payton. He's like, I would rather the Denver Broncos go 5-12 and go to like 8 or 9 in the draft than to purposely throw the season and keep this losing culture in place for one more season. He's like, I know it's one more season, but he's like, I would rather that so that these players can remember what it's like to win, especially the veterans. He's like, because he's like, I don't want to get rid of the veterans. He's like, I want these veterans to fight through adversity and stay with the football team. He's like, I want this core to stay together with Sean Payton so that we have consistency. We haven't had consistency for 7 years, 8 years? He's like, we've gone through 3 head coaches, and that's just such a killer for a franchise. It's like the Commanders back in the day, or the Redskins, or the Browns, the Lions, the Jets. These are the organizations that fall in that trap of, once we get our guy at number 1 or number 2, we're set. And he's like, I understand Caleb Williams is a generational talent. He's like, I think Caleb Williams is going to be really good in the NFL. But if we're not meant to get Caleb Williams because we're trying to establish a winning culture, he's like, I would take that 10 out of 10 times. He's like, I believe in Russell Wilson too. He's like, if anything, you guys should be trying to establish that winning culture. And if for some reason you guys just don't win more than 4 games, you don't need a Caleb Williams. You hold on to Russell Wilson and you draft someone like Drake May or Shador if he comes out, and you have him sit behind Russ. He's like, I don't know if that's what they want to do, but he's like, the point is that you want to have, and he mentioned Green Bay, how Brett Favre had Aaron Rodgers sitting underneath him. Then he had Aaron Rodgers with Jordan Love come in after him, and Jordan Love's been having a decent year than he would have if he started right away. So him starting right away versus him sitting behind Aaron Rodgers is night and day difference. Jordan Love wouldn't be good at all if he was just thrown into the Green Bay Packers starting role. So it was riveting information coming from TD, and a lot of that stuff I knew, I understand, but I'm just so over it that I just want this whole team to be rebuilt because we never. I mean, eventually we rebuilt our team, but not in a true rebuild fashion, if that makes sense. It's always just been another losing year, blah, blah, blah. What quarterback are we going to get? It's always been about the quarterback kind of thing. Sean Payton went out and got guys for the offensive line. He overspent, but that's because he had to overspend because we don't have any draft picks to work with yet to rebuild that O-line. So they're definitely trying in ways, I still don't understand why Vance Joseph still has a job. I understand it's 4 weeks in the season, but Terrell Davis was like, he's like, I'm never going to be on the side of firing coaches just because they had a few bad games. He's like, that is what destroys a consistent culture that you're trying to bring. He's like, if come week 12, come week 13, he's still struggling, that's a different story. He's like, but you have to give these players and coaches time to adopt the culture, get in the habits of the new franchise they're a part of. He's like, it takes time. He's like, we just have to be patient. And that's what he was telling. That's what he was saying to Mike Evans. And, of course, Schlereth was just like, yeah, like kind of just agreeing with everything TD was saying. So it made a lot of sense. I'm still up in the air about what I want. I guess for me personally, I'm going to go into this Jets game which we got some players back from the pup, which was nice. That's going to help. I'm going to hope they win just to see what this team can do. If they can have another win, could that kind of springboards them into the Kansas City game? I don't think they're going to win the Kansas City game, but that's going to be a telling game for sure. You know, because we got put 70 points put on us by Miami, but I don't know. I guess this is just a true test of resilience for this football team. It's really what it comes down to. I mean, you've been in the toughest position since 1966. So what are you going to do with that, and how are you going to overcome that? Because if they can overcome that, that is really telling. And Russ is producing. Like, I have no issues with Russ. I have all the faith in the world in Russ. Our offense is clicking, and it's only going to get better because now you have these players that are coming out of the woodworks and producing. And McLaughlin, he's going to get more carries. He's going to get more special play calls. Marvin Mims is going to see the football more. I know he will. Hopefully we get Judy more involved. Hopefully Sutton can hold on to the football, stuff like that. So it's more just really what the defense is going to do. We get Simmons back this week, right? He's coming back. Does it sound like it?
It sounds like
Sounds like it.
Okay. And then we have, is that K'Wan Williams? He's coming back, right?
And probably not this week, maybe not even next week, but soon.
We're getting Nick Benito's adopting that starting role, which I think is great because Nick Benito showed some real promise for sure. You get Baron Browning. I don't think he's going to play this week, but he's practicing again.
Right.
Josie Jewell. Have you guys heard anything about Josie Jewell?
I heard he's playing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought I heard that too.
I heard a good thing about Josie Jewell about how he's a leader on the defense and he puts people in the right positions. And Justin Simmons does that too.
Makes sense.
So maybe that's
Hold on, fellas. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no worries. Maybe that's what we're lacking on the defense. The leadership aspect is that you need somebody out there. Hey, you need to be over there. You need to be over there. This is where you're supposed to be at. This is your zone. And Justin Simmons and Josie Jewell are the forefront of that.
Is Simmons or Jewell? Which one wears the green dot? Do you know? I feel like
Simmons.
it's one of them. Okay.
Simmons,
I mean, that's crucial in itself, having a green dot back. I mean, just relaying the information from the defensive coordinator. I mean, that's huge. And I mean, Josie Jewell, I mean, we've seen it just as fans, the clear leadership from Josie Jewell. And it makes sense for him to be that guy to get everybody set up into the right place. I mean, he's been here. I know it's not the same defense, but what year is Josie Jewell? Was he here when VJ was originally here? That's too far back, right?
No, I think he was a Fangio hire.
Was he a Fangio?
I think.
But no, I mean these guys are. I mean, Simmons and Jewell are huge for this defense in just so many ways. But man, I'm in on the season, and I'm not in on the season in the way of like, we're gonna go and win 10 games and make the playoffs. Like, that's not where I'm at. Yeah, I'm feeling a lot of the same ways as Zach was saying TD feels. A lot of it is I don't want to see this losing culture, especially with these young guys. I don't want to see that happen under Sean Payton. Now, I understand we're probably not going to see a winning record this season, but I'd like to see closer to a winning record than not. But another big part of that, outside of the culture, is I just want to see steps forward. I want to see this team progress. I want to see these players, like I said, the young guys as well. I want to see them experience success, like TD was saying. not only just with their personal stats, but with the rest of the team as well. And I really don't think this team is really all that far off. Offensively, I think this is only going to get better, like Zach said. And through this season, I don't see why we can't get into the mid 20 point a game average, or close to it. Maybe not quite get there, but start working our way towards it, or at least into the 20s. I mean, that's something we haven't seen here in a long time. But the defense, I mean, I just find it really hard to believe that you go from a top 5, top 10 for sure defense, to the worst defense in the league. And honestly, man, with the way this offense is playing, and the way I could see this offense potentially playing because of how it looks early, this defense really only needs to be average to win games. They don't need to get back to that top 5, top 10 range this season. Now, obviously, we would love to see that, of course. I think coaching is a big piece holding our defense back. But if they can get to that 16 to 20 range, I don't see why this team can't go win 7, 8 games. And I think that would be huge for the morale of the entire team moving forward.
Yeah, I've been struggling with just how to feel about this team. And I was obviously pretty pissed off, like that's when it's so bad saying it as a diehard Broncos fan, that I was pissed off about them winning that game against the Bears. But like I was listening to different stuff throughout the week too, and different post game stuff on local channels and stuff. And it was, I understand, like everybody, it was like some of the channels were like, it was like celebrating, like it was like a huge win, and it showed that the Broncos do have fight. It shows that the offense, played well, obviously, like it has been most of the season so far. And, it was good to get the first one of the season. I understand that's why everybody was happy. I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to say, like, yes, I'm not going to root for the Broncos to lose. Like, I think last podcast we went down the rabbit hole big time, obviously, and a lot of that was conspiracy. Like, I know nobody in the NFL is tanking, because you're not going to be able to talk a player into going out there and giving a half-ass effort, and they got to feed their families, they got to take care of their own, and they're playing for contracts, really, a lot of these guys. So I know that's not what we were saying, or what I was saying specifically. A lot of the last podcast was like the hypothetical type of stuff, and
right,
like therapeutic, like we were talking about. But everything that just kept coming back to me, it was like, as I was watching that game, and then even afterwards, yes, the Broncos got a win, which they could easily go out and beat the Jets. The defense is really good in New York. Zach Wilson looked a lot better against the Chiefs, which isn't a team to look really good against, especially on defense.
He pulled a game out of his ass, let's be honest.
Maybe. I guess we'll find out. But if there's
right.
any game to continue to pull games out of your asses, it's against this defense,
defense
on the Broncos.
Yeah.
I just kept coming back to, going into this season, not everybody, but a lot of people were expecting Justin Fields to take this huge, like, Jalen Hurts style leap. And he looked horrendous. The whole offense looked horrendous in Chicago for the first 3 weeks of the season. And the Broncos had zero answer for them for 2.5 quarters. And even they moved, even in the fourth quarter, the Chicago moved the ball pretty much at will. They got into position to kick the field goal that would give them the lead in the game and give the Broncos little time to go down the field and tie it or win it. And that just shows how horribly run their whole franchise is. I don't know if you guys saw on the game, but they showed Ryan Pace up in the box, like, just put his face in his hands and just shake it when they didn't get that 4th and 1. It just shows how bad of an organization and football team they are. But they are, like, without a doubt, the worst team in the league. and they should have won that game. Just like we were talking with during the Commanders week, we had a 21-point lead, 24-point lead, or something crazy like that, and allowed them to come back. Chicago's saying the same thing. Like as Broncos fans, that week we were saying that should have been over. It should have been over. That was just bad. Well, Chicago's saying that now. So I need to see more out of this team. Like, I don't know. I don't think the Broncos, like, after watching some of these teams, like, there are some really, really bad teams in the NFL this year. Like the Giants, oh my goodness. They look absolutely horrendous.
Daniel Jones got sacked 11 times.
Oh my goodness. They are so bad. And then of course, you'll have the Bears, the Panthers, which they're in obviously a rebuild year after drafting Bryce Young first overall. So there's going to be teams that are probably not going to allow the Broncos to draft in one of those like really prime quarterback spots. And it's never about like me hating on Russ, this like Caleb Williams talking rookie quarterback talk. For me, it's always been just like, I'm sick of seeing the same thing every year. As it stands right now, I don't see how the Broncos get out of that. I understand. I mean, and I hear you guys. Yeah, this team could win 7 games this year. But it could. I mean, it could catapult them into a better year next year. I understand this is a first year in this system with Peyton and Vance Joseph, and which, I mean, at this rate, he's not going to be retained, obviously, after this year. But I know it does take some. I know it does take some time, and even Broncos Country Tonight I was listening to last night, and they were talking about how, because Nick Ferguson's on Broncos Country Tonight, former defensive player in the NFL, former Broncos player, stud, and he talks about how when you get a new coordinator, it can take time, like playing against actual teams, not in training camp, not in OTAs or anything, but like playing actual other NFL teams. It could take, quite a few games to finally get to know, like getting to see what you're good at and how you can, get the best out of your scheme and your players. It's just, I just need to see it. Like if they go out and I don't know. It's just hard for me right now to like, because I'm obviously going to root for the Broncos to win. I want success here.
Right.
Like if they went on a freaking crazy win streak, like, yeah, I'm all in. If they go in and they beat the Jets and they can beat the Chiefs, like I'm excited. But then I just keep thinking about like the Broncos just obviously today, big news. They got rid of Gregory, released Randy Gregory, huge cap. I mean,
and Bassey.
Bassey, which that was a surprising one. But McMillan played good in the nickel. They're expecting K1 back soon. Riley Moss is going to start getting more playing time now. So I understood that move a little bit. I definitely understood the Randy Gregory move. It was just
you're overpaying.
They were overpaying for very little production, and especially with the emergence of Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito, Baron Browning coming back. Like it's a crowded room, and Frank Clark's coming back as well. Crowded room. You're the highest paid guy, and our beloved Benjamin Albright said it today on Twitter that the pass rushing room and the wide receiver room, if you're overpaid, underachieving player, you're probably not going to last much longer here in Denver. Like this season, like release or trade.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I just want to see. I need to see another game, and it sucks because it's like, this is an easily winnable game against New York this weekend, and then you got to play KC.
It should be like easily winnable game.
It would have been nice if we had played the Bears first, and then had that comeback, and then we had the Raiders, the Commanders, and then the Jets.
Right.
But I mean, that's just hindsight 2020.
Right.
That would have been nice to have figured this out, the resiliency, the first week against the Raiders, and then springboard from there with the Commanders, which we looked great against the Commanders the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's probably the most bumming game that I watched. I know the 70-point game was horrible, But we were winning the Commanders game, and we were dominating in that game. The Commanders couldn't do anything that first half. And then the fact that they came back and we had to rely on a Hail Mary pass for a touchdown and then rely on a 2-point conversion, which I know that was pass interference, but we shouldn't have been in that situation, you know.
And Jerry Jeudy was wide open on the other side of the end zone, by the way.
Yeah, that drives me crazy that when stuff like that happens, you know. Yeah. But
I just need to see more. I'm not ready to say this team because I still don't think this is going to be a playoff team. And maybe we're asking too much as fans, like because we are.
I never thought it was a playoff team. Yeah,
we have been spoiled as fans, obviously, getting to watch the great Broncos teams over the years, and then obviously not within the not recently, but I don't know, man. I'm just like really confused on what I want to see, what I want to happen. The thing that I keep thinking about is like Sean Payton, and I said this before, and I probably will continue to say, like, I think Sean Payton is a Denver Bronco longer than Russell Wilson is.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and
absolutely
that's not a knock on Russ. Like Russ is playing good, but he's also 36,
35.
Yeah, 35, 36.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't.
We probably have a good 2 more years out of
Are
Russ.
we playing? Are the Broncos
34?
Oh, okay. So he'll be 35. So it's not
be 35
bad,
November 29th. He shares a birthday with my wife, actually.
But
there you go.
Like I was saying, the point of keeping Russ around, I know. And what I hope he does, what I really hope is that he restructures that contract of his.
Yeah,
I would hope so.
I would hope that because he's going to get paid that money, I just hope he receives that money in a signing bonus.
Yeah.
Like, here you go, Russ. Here's some of that guaranteed money. We're going to lower your cap hit.
Yeah.
Like, pay him up front some lump sum of money, and then maybe bring his cap hit to 35 million, 32 million a year.
But who wouldn't convert that, you know?
You know, I mean, I'd like to think that the owners are thinking of ways to make this cap hit a little bit more favorable because we need more guys. Like, definitely. Like, we need to fix some things for sure. But it's hard to do when you have a quarterback with a $52 million cap hit.
Yeah.
And then you have the highest paid wide receiver room. And then you have, I don't know, whatever else we're paying for, you know, and Sean Payton making, what, $10 million a year or something, you know?
18.
So,
18. Well, and these players know better than we do, you know, about how these contracts are working out around the league, you know, what's going on out there. So I'd imagine that Russ, this has come across his mind. I'm sure there's already been conversations.
I hope so.
About it. You know, he's a competitor. Exactly. Yeah. He needs to. And what guy in the NFL wouldn't take the money now, the same money that they would get throughout the contract, in order to lower their cap hit to help the team ultimately try to win at the end of the day? I mean, who wouldn't do that?
Exactly. You know, right? And this was the first week that Sean Payton actually had nice things to say about Russ after the game. It's funny.
It's funny how Drew Brees.
Funny how winning cures that.
Right. Winning cures all, baby. Everything seems a lot of things forgotten when you win.
Yeah.
Here's where I'm at, and I'm going to ride this. I'm just going to embrace this completely. Keep all the coaches together. Hold hands. Let's get through this together. Establish that culture, and hope and pray that Vance Joseph just has his breakthrough year as the defensive coordinator. Nobody goes anywhere. And next year we have the same coaching staff. We go into that with Russ still our quarterback. He took a restructured contract. We drafted somebody.
Stud left tackle.
Or something like that. Or we get high enough to draft a quarterback. Because I still wouldn't mind if Shedeur came here if he enters the draft. I just don't know how realistic that is. But I know Deion Sanders loves Sean Payton, and
Well,
he would encourage Shadur, hey, if you're going to enter the draft this year and the Broncos are going to draft you, he's like, I would encourage that because I think Sean Payton's a good coach. He's like, you're not going to be the dog right away. He's like, you need to sit and learn behind Russell Wilson.
And that's what he's projected to be too. You know, a guy that has to sit a couple years.
Which
it's fine.
That would be fine. I mean, like, it's like the whole Alex Smith thing in Kansas City. You know, you have to have a good team to have a quarterback come in and start winning. Like Kansas City had a great football team with Alex Smith, and then Pat Mahomes just pushed him over the edge into the Super Bowl.
I think it's hard, and this is what my point of view with these, like, having quarterbacks come and sit. I think it's hard because those are always the examples, right? Mahomes sitting behind Alex Smith. Mahomes is like generational. Probably will go down as the best quarterback to ever put on a pair of cleats.
I know.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers sitting behind Brett Favre. Everybody knew on that draft night, what was the big talk? Like, why is Aaron Rodgers still sitting there? He should have been the first overall pick in that draft. So I think I just don't buy into those comparisons. We'll get a guy and let him sit. Because Jordan Love, yeah, he's looked okay. He's not special, though. The guys that a lot of people like to use those examples about are special. And so I don't personally ever like the idea of, I mean, you definitely see quarterbacks come in and start right away and it's bad for them. Like, it does not pan out good. Mm-hmm. But I feel like those guys were probably not going to be good even if you sat behind somebody.
I guess.
Yeah. I guess what I'm just trying to say is, like, if you're gonna go into next season with Russ as your guy, then that needs to be it. I mean, if Russ does enough this year, and if Russ does enough this year where you want to continue to pay him this contract, because like we've said on here before, like after this year, like you're in it. You are not getting out of that unless he does like a restructure or something like that. But like after this year is like the only time that you can like walk away with saving a little bit of money.
Yeah, he's still got that job.
Right, exactly. But I just, if you're going in, I know we're talking. I mean, it's only week 5 we're going into, so it's early to be talking this kind of stuff. But it's just kind of the state of the Broncos. It's kind of the state we're in. It's the state we're in every year, it seems like.
You know, I just want to. I guess what I'm trying to say is, you need to have a better team. I mean, or this team needs to come together and do better.
Did you guys hear?
You have to have depth too.
Right. Did you guys hear Zach Allen defend Vance Joseph?
I read it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he talked about how it's like the player. Vance Joseph's not out there missing tackles. Vance Joseph's not out there, getting assignments mixed up and blowing coverages. Like, and I know Zach Allen, he's been with Vance Joseph for a long time. He was with him in Arizona for a handful of years, and obviously one of the big reasons he came here to Denver is because Vance Joseph was the new DC. But like we even talked about it last week. Like, it might just be a problem of like maybe these players aren't. There needs to be a step up in talent across the board in some of these positions. Because, I mean, even for Zach Allen, like, when has we heard Zach Allen's name this year? That's another big signing.
There was a lot of people calling him the next Derek Wolfe, and I have yet to see that.
Yeah. Now, granted, I think it's a combination of both between coaching and talent, but now Vance Joseph isn't doing those things, but Vance Joseph is routinely scheming PS2 to cover third-string receivers. Yeah. He's routinely sending 4 when we can't get to the quarterback.
That's the other thing too. Like, PS2 is one of those guys that, yes, you just follow. Where's the best guy? Go following around. But that's not really what Vance runs. This is not like a heavy man.
Right.
This is not a heavy man defense. He's not a coordinator that's going to do that ever. So offenses can scheme. Yeah, we'll throw, like this past week, DJ Moore in the slot or put him on the other side of the field. And he was even like and I'm obviously the biggest PS2 guy out there, but he even got the better PS2 a handful of plays out there. And of course, that's not, as a corner, you're going to give some up sometimes. But I don't know. I agree with keeping Vance around for a while. I really, unless there's like a miraculous turnaround on defense, this team will probably still finish in the bottom, 25 to 32, unfortunately. So he's probably not sticking around next year, which obviously we'd be like, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah,
but
if he doesn't turn it around, I'm like, okay.
Right.
You can get over a coordinator.
Which I understand.
An experienced one,
Right. Which I understand that, like, that's who VJ is as a coach, but you can't fit a square peg into a round hole. You got to work with the talent you have on your roster right now. If that doesn't fit your scheme, you need to adjust your scheme. You can't
and
adjust
he's made
your
comments
players.
about that too.
Right.
He's literally pointed that out, and I'll give him credit. He's held himself accountable, and he said it starts with him, and that I think it was a press conference after one of the practices last week. Right. He made a comment about, it's players first, then scheme. Well, it sure doesn't feel like it out there. Right. Or is that what they are attempting to do? And, you can't hide Mathis. You can't hide. I mean, I love K-Jack just as much as most Broncos fans. He's been great for us, but he has looked really bad this year. Really bad. The loss of Caden Stearns is looming extremely large. And then, of course, Justin not being out there is, he's the second best player on the team, and he's not out there. So that hurts, obviously, but it shows a lack of depth, which luckily we're getting a lot of, some big depth pieces back and even, starter caliber guys. So but that's the hard part for me. You're going to see injuries. Every team's going through injuries. It's not just the Broncos. To me, I'm not going to keep saying well, we'll just get these guys back and then we'll be fine. That's what the problem is. That hasn't been the only problem. Well,
they got to readjust and get into football shape again.
Right. Which hearing that accountability last week is why I changed my tune on Vance Joseph. I was really big on get rid of him. Why not? Anybody can do as good of or as bad of a coaching job as this. But hearing that accountability is why I agree with what Zach said. I do think you need to keep him around, and at least through this season, like you said, Anthony, to see if he does learn from his mistake. I mean, at this point, why get rid of him?
Yeah, and who's going to come in and do better at midway through the season
at this rate?
Yeah,
who's going to be available?
Right.
So I know there's a lot of the John Pagano talk because he's in Denver from Benjamin Albright.
We'll see.
I thought is he talking about Chuck Pagano or John Pagano?
I think John, because John is a frequent guest on Broncos Country Tonight with Ben and Nick Ferguson also.
And Chuck's in Indy, I believe.
Didn't John Pagano get hired as a coach on the East Coast recently?
I don't know.
Special teams coach?
I'm not sure.
I think I read that.
I'll do a quick search on it.
Yeah, John Pagano, coach.
Most recently, outside linebackers coach for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
When was that?
UConn announces John Pagano hired as special assistant to the head coach. University of Connecticut.
Wow.
So is he just consulting from afar?
Yeah, I don't know. He might be. I wonder if he's talking about Chuck. I've made that mistake.
I think I've read John though. That's why.
That's what I thought too.
So, but they're both from Boulder, Chuck and John. So, I don't know. But anyways, what's the point of moving on from him at this point in the season? Because I know Sean Payton said before the year, if this team doesn't make the playoffs, I'll be pissed. But who really thought this team was going to go to the playoffs the first year,
Right.
After coming off of one of the worst seasons in Broncos history last year, and then 6 years before that of just pure mediocrity to below average football. So, a season is a night and it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while to build, and unfortunately, we've been since the Super Bowl year, we just haven't built properly because of the different head coaches we've hired, because of the ownership situation, because of drafting Paxton Lynch. Like drafting Paxton Lynch and him not panning out really set this franchise back many years. Like he needed to pan out for us to be back into it. And I know a lot of people have said we should have drafted Josh Allen over Bradley Chubb. I just don't think Josh Allen would have been the same quarterback with us, if I'm being honest.
No, I think a lot of people forget what Josh Allen was for 2.5 seasons, or 2 seasons for sure.
And he had Brian Dabble to help him out. And Brian Dabble was a damn good offensive coordinator.
He had a team that stuck with him, through 2 seasons and into that 3rd season.
Mm-hmm. And I just don't think our team was ready to develop a quarterback at that point in time. And I know we wanted Herbert, and I know this and that. I just don't know if they would be the same guys,
Well, Herbert has a pretty horrendous coach now also.
Yeah,
looks true. Pretty damn
I think Herbert might be a different situation than Josh Allen.
Herbert could be that generational guy. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think Josh Allen, he would have struggled here like he did in Buffalo. But I think in terms of quarterback, a lot of time, just talent beats out everything.
Well, yeah.
That's why it's the most important position in all of sports. Because even when Josh was bad, he was still you still saw glimpses this guy needs to do this more.
Right.
And he could be something. We obviously never saw that with Paxton, We saw that with Drew from time to time, but Drew was also not a top 10 pick.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. Getting one of these top quarterbacks in next year's draft, it's a pipe dream. And one that could still potentially happen just based on the strength of schedule, whether or not this defense turns it around. Injuries happen, things like that. I just don't for years and years we keep talking about how this team is just a couple pieces away. And I'm almost sick of hearing it.
Yeah.
I'm to the point, and I think that's where I'm at now, where I had hopeful. There was moments where I've been hopeful throughout these last 7 years, and right now I'm done. I'm done seeing what's out there. This team is literally making a fan like myself want you to lose, and then you still the Broncos didn't look good on Sunday until the second half. They didn't. Right. The defense didn't look good. The running game until Jaleel came in was. And I understand Javonte is still coming back from. The fact that he's back now is ridiculous, and a big kudos to him for getting back so quickly and rehabbing the way he did. He's obviously not as explosive yet. He's obviously not in top Javonte Williams form, but they didn't have any sort of run game or any kind of explosiveness until Jaleel came in. This team they will not use Marvin Mims. He has the most yards on the team and the least amount of routes run, the least amount of snaps played, least amount of targets. It's
averaging 16 snaps a game. It's horrendous.
It's what is going on? And the big thing is I even heard it on the radio this morning that VJ isn't, and same thing. VJ and Sean Payton aren't guys that typically play rookies, but it's time to start using some damn rookies, because you're not.
That's your future.
Realistically, what are the? I know all the Broncos. They're going to play. They want to play to win. They expect to win, but I'm just at the point now where it's really I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if they can hit 7 wins. We looked at the schedule. This is the last easy game. Because even Minnesota on this defense with Kirk Cousins, and Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkins, what are they going to put up on this defense? Sure, they don't have a great defense, but the Broncos. We saw it in the Raiders game. the defense literally wasn't able to just get off the field to allow the Broncos offense to work. So they don't get in rhythms. Like, I don't know, man. I know I'm being a Debbie Downer. I'm just like, I just need to see more before I decide in my head like what I want to see how the rest of the season plays out. I obviously want the Broncos to win, so don't get that twisted. Like, I'm a Broncos fan. I want to see them successful, and I understand the winning culture thing. But I mean,
I think we got so far deep in this tank talk that we want them to have success. And we've tried every single avenue to think about, and the Broncos have tried every single avenue to think about, getting a quarterback or bolstering the offensive line, or, hey, our defense is good. We need to work on our offense. Oh, wait, our offense is good. What happened to our defense?
Yeah.
So I think we're just to the point where we're just like, just blow it up. Just start over. Because you figure out one thing, you lose out on 10 other things. You try to regain 3 out of the 10 of those things, you lose out on 5 more things.
Yeah.
It's just been that battle for 7 years, and it's so annoying and frustrating. I am so tired of seeing I'm so tired of enjoying watching Sunday Night Football with competent football teams and just not enjoying watching us. It's like I feel like when I watch football games with the Broncos, I don't feel like I'm watching an NFL team. I feel like I'm watching just
Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like, how is this an NFL team? You know?
It's almost like you're watching them because you have to, because you're a Broncos fan.
Feel obligated.
And it's just like, I'm so tired of I just want them to be the talk of the town. I want to be excited to watch them on Sunday night. I want to be excited I'll never forget just how exciting that 2015 season was. When we went out there on Sunday Night Football, everybody and their mother in America was picking Aaron Rodgers and the Packers to win against Peyton Manning and the Broncos. We absolutely leveled the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers could not do anything against our defense.
And that was on my 21st birthday, so that was one to remember.
Nice.
Yeah, or not remember, depending.
Yeah, I remember most of the game.
But those were the days.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing is like this fan base and the players, the people in the building, like they're hungry for success. And that's the hard part is like I'm just like, and obviously I'm just a dude sitting on his couch watching and talking about the Broncos, so I have no say, but like I'm just at a loss of like, what do you do? Like we've tried everything. You've brought in the old school head coaches like the Vic Fangios, and you brought the new young hip ones like Nathaniel Hackett. It's like, okay, we've tried these types of head coaches. You tried the offensive head coach. You tried the defensive head coach. You tried to, develop a young guy like Locke. That didn't pan out. Well, let's go trade a bunch of assets to get a future Hall of Famer with Russ. We had what happened last season. And, of course, I don't think it was all Russ's fault. Like, you see him. He looks good. He's playing really good. But like, it's almost like, okay, what now? Like, our drafting at – and I know the draft's a crapshoot, honestly. Like, great Hall of Fame legendary players come late in the draft. They come in the middle of the first round. Like, getting a top 5 pick doesn't make a player, great, doesn't change your franchise because there are misses. But it's just like I just am lost at what to do now because you're going to have to fill holes because Garrett Bowles is probably gone. He's got a big contract. He's probably done. So you need to fill left tackle. You need quarterback or cornerback too. Which maybe Riley Miles comes in and is that guy. K-Jack's done. I mean, Stearns, unfortunately, hasn't been able to show the ability to stay healthy, which isn't his fault. And when he's been out there, he's been really good. But, like, there's so many other holes to fix. So that's what I keep thinking, like, okay, you get through the season and we somehow win 7-8 games. where do you start? Because we've been spending money. Broncos have been spending big dollars, and that's where George Paton comes in. And I have loved George Paton since he's come in, but like, it's starting to wear thin, and it's almost like this Randy Gregory signing was like the first step. Like, that was your guy. You went out and spent a lot on him, so he's gone. Your draft picks are starting to kind of like really not pan out, aside from Surtain and Javante. And you have like your lower drafted guys too that I wouldn't call hits, but have produced for this team. Like, so are we going to be looking for a new GM next year? Like, if I had to bet money on it now, like George Paton, this is probably his last year in Denver.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
So it's like, so we're going to do this all again next year and expect a better outcome with a new GM to go spend a bunch more money in free agency to fill these holes. Like, I'm just sick of patching holes. Like, that's the big thing. That's how it seems like the Broncos are doing, because it was always, this is the Denver Broncos. This isn't a rebuild. It's just a retool. This is Denver. This is this whole region's team, historically great franchise. Yeah, you don't need to tear it down and start over. Like, let's just patch some holes. We just fill. Oh yeah, we need a right tackle. Go sign McGlinchey. And I think is he not the most penalized player on the offensive line this year? And I was stoked about McGlinchey. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like some of these things that aren't panning out. Like, it's almost like if not now on a rebuild, then like when? And of course, the Broncos could run away and start winning games here because you do have that kind of coach, you do have that kind of quarterback. But I'm just like so lost in my head about what I expect to see every Sunday. What I just don't even know. I don't trust draft picks anymore. I don't trust these free agency signings. Like, I don't know, because as much as we like how Russ is playing, like, he couldn't have done it in Seattle without his cast, like most quarterbacks can't. But like, you don't have a good defense around him, like most teams, but you're probably not going to win. Mm-mm. You don't have the right weapons around him. You don't have the right O-line. Like, that was always the knock, right, in Seattle. Like, well, they never protected him, and I said it too. I think we talked about it last year, Zach. Like, they trade him away finally, and then their like first 2 picks in the draft were tackles. It's like, why weren't you doing that for years? So it's just like, if you still have all these holes to fix and all these different positions to go fill with really good players to get to where you want to be, it's like, by the time this team's ready in a couple of years, like, where's Russ going to be at then? Or so we're going to be talking about that. Like, that's how that's how big of a mess my head is. Like, okay, I hear what everybody's saying. We're going to let Russ cook. We're going to do this. And so in 3 years, when we finally fill all those holes and these players are developed and they're looking good, and now you got a 37-year-old quarterback that can't move like he used to. Because, I mean, age is undefeated, right? And I'm not saying Russ is looking bad by any means, but like, that's just where I'm at. So in a few years, are we going to be in the same boat of, well, we have the team, now we just need the quarterback now because Russ just aged out? Like, it's just a freaking mess. So that's almost why I'm like, I want to see it happen within the next year and a half or two, 2 seasons, or just call it what it is. A bad team that hasn't been run properly over the last handful of years, just tear it down and start over. Because I see teams like the Texans this year. You can't tell me they have a winning culture, because they don't. They sure are psyched up about their rookie quarterback and these handful of really young receivers and good young offensive linemen, and they're like one of these teams on the rise. They were supposed to be drafting top 3 this next coming year, and they look good all of a sudden. CJ Stroud's like by far and away the best rookie quarterback probably of the last couple years to just come out here and just perform right away. And of course, you can't guarantee that in a rookie. And again, I'm not saying just start over and let's go get a rookie quarterback and throw him into the fire. But that's just where I'm at, dude. I'm just like all over the place. I don't know what I want to see. I don't know what I want from this Broncos team, and it hurts as a Broncos fan to witness this, because that's, like I mentioned earlier, it feels like, oh yeah, don't make plans on this Sunday because I have to watch the Broncos game. not because I want to. Like, I wanted to turn the shit off on Sunday in the first half. It was horrendous. And yes, they came back, but man, I don't know. I'm just a mess, dude. I'm a mess. And I don't know what I want to see anymore.
I think the best thing we could do, honestly, is just trust Sean Payton. Trust the owners and trust Sean Payton, because that's about the only consistency we're probably going to see,
right?
Realistically,
Yeah.
I mean, is the owners and Sean Payton. Because, like you said, which I agree with, I don't know if George Payton's going to stick around. I don't know if these coordinators are going to stick around. So.
Like Joe Lombardi is the safest guy in the building, probably next to Sean Payton, because that's just Sean Payton's guy, and the offense has looked good.
But it's the best we can do is just trust Sean Payton and the owners. The owners are still new. It's only their second year owning a football team, so they're still figuring it out. Like the culture of the NFL. Because they haven't been in the NFL before. None of them.
Right.
Like we have Condoleezza Rice as one of our owners, like she spent her entire life in politics. And we have Lewis Hamilton, F1 racer, Rob Walton, wildly successful retail chain.
Right.
Greg Turner, financial group,
But if there's one thing I could confidently say about this ownership group so far in this short time they've been here is they'll spend money. They
will.
They didn't buy this team because they need more money.
Yeah,
they bought this team to be successful. Exactly. Yeah. They bought this team to be successful, and they are willing to pay for you to leave just as much as they're willing to pay for you to come. And that I couldn't be more excited about.
Right. By far the richest NFL owners. So that's the best we can do, in my opinion, is just trust them, trust Sean Payton. Hope for a win on Sunday. Take it each week.
Now, let's move on to the Jets real quick. Like,
yeah, let's get.
If this is a loss, where are we at on the pod next week?
We're back to last week.
Right. I mean, that's the hard part. It's almost like week to week now.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I'm still going to trust Sean Payton and the owners, but I think we're going to ramp up the draft talks.
Right.
I don't think we're going to go back to tank. I don't think we're going to push that far ourselves back off the edge, because I was in the black. So
we were seeing red.
Yeah, but I think losing to the Jets, you might as well just seal your fate against the Chiefs.
2 of the next 3
going
games.
to the bye week. We're going to start talking about like what kind of draft picks can we get from Justin Simmons? What kind of draft picks can we get from Jerry Jeudy? What kind of draft picks could we get from Sutton?
Those talks are probably already happening.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
I mean, they are. With this Randy Gregory move, and then as Ben Albright said, like receiver, and we said it on this podcast not long ago. This is the most expensive receiver room in the whole league. And our boy Philip Lindsay was even putting him on blast. Did you guys see that?
I did, yeah.
Him and Jerry Jeudy going back and forth.
Yeah.
But it's like we got to see something. And it's not all on them. I understand that. But, like, that is with the emergence of Marvin Mims, like, that's turning into, like, where in the past I didn't want to see Jerry Jeudy get traded. I didn't want to see Cortland Sutton get traded. But now it's almost like it's time for one of you guys to go.
If we lose to the Jets, definitely.
Yeah, and I think.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think like even if you get a win against the Jets, like I really feel like one of our guys is getting traded, Cortland or Jeudy, and I think it's going to be Jeudy because he's on the rookie deal.
Mm-hmm.
He has that really extreme draft capital, and a name to watch that I've been seeing all over is that the Carolina Panthers have been pretty public about like, well, we want to go trade for a number 1 caliber receiver, a guy with number 1 talent, like number 1 overall on the team talent. And there's a guy in the Panthers building that's pretty damn familiar with these Broncos receivers. Because if you guys remember, Avero is the DC there now. So it's just like almost like makes too much sense where these rumors are coming out that the Broncos are willing to get rid of some cap space within the wide receiver room. Panthers are looking to trade for one of these receivers. It was already close. Cortland Sutton was close to getting traded to the Ravens in the offseason. Like, I think one of those trades is going to happen. But you can still, like, I guess the silver lining is you could still trade one of those guys and really not skip a beat. Like, trading one of those guys doesn't mean packing in the season. Like, I literally saw some people on social media today, like, with the Randy Gregory release, like, people are like, oh, yep, they are tanking. That is, they just don't even care anymore. It's like, and then the other people are like, oh, please go sign here. We need you. And it's like, you haven't been watching because this guy has been not good. He is not. And especially for the contracts he got, like he was barely filling the stat sheet for like a veteran minimum style contract. So like, yeah, you guys could fight over him. But yeah, I don't think that even trading one of those guys away, Sutton or Judy, is like saying like, yeah, we gave up. We're done.
Right.
It's
and to
almost
interject real quick, another reason it'd be Judy too is because you have a guy that's going to step into the Judy role in Mims. You know, Mims isn't going to step into the Sutton role, you know, in that possession receiver type of a role.
That's true. That's a good point that I've never even thought about. Yeah, I mean, they've said this whole offseason that Cortland Sutton was playing the Michael Thomas role in the Sean Payton offense. And Sims isn't that kind of receiver. But my God, please put the guy on the field more and put Jaleel on the field more, even if Javante's healthy. And I love Javante. You guys know that.
Just have
both in the backfield.
What was the duo? It was Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram. And even before that, like, is Jaleel McLaughlin not like almost a spitting image of Darren Sproles?
Right.
What Darren Sproles could have been, what Darren Sproles was under Sean Payton. He wasn't touching the ball every snap. He's not a workhorse. He had packages for him, and he was highly effective. And Jaleel, I mean, every time he's on the field, it's like, oh, this might be good. Like we're going to see something. Like I heard somebody compare him to Philip. Yeah, I heard somebody compare him to Philip Lindsay this week, which isn't, in my opinion, a bad comparison. But like, Philip could not catch out of the backfield. He could not catch passes, and he was horrible.
He was a liability.
Well, they tried to make him a workhorse, and he wasn't.
Yeah, and I don't think Jaleel is either. But like, he can catch passes out of the backfield. He's not going to stand up in pass protection, so that might limit you.
He's quick.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's a playmaker, and he's already got the stamp of approval from the best running back in Broncos history in TD. Like, yeah. I really want to see him more. And
I think he's the second most explosive player on offense that we have. Outside of Mims.
Outside of Mims, right. Yeah, that's true. And that is a good sign for us. They're two rookies. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are pieces here. That is one good thing. Like, there are pieces. You got the best corner in the league. The pass rush is starting to come together. I mean, the O-line has been pretty damn solid. I mean, aside from some of the stupid penalties and mainly on McGlinchey, like, the O-line has been – I mean, I haven't heard Ben Powers' name once. And in my opinion,
Actually, I heard him and Bowles actually work well together.
Right. And it's almost like when you're not hearing about offensive linemen, it's almost a good thing. You know? So, like – yeah, right. So, the offensive line has been pretty decent. So, there are pieces here to be encouraged about. And I'm just sick of waiting. I think that's the biggest thing. I'm just sick of waiting.
We just need to make a trade for Jason Kelce.
Who's that?
We need to make a trade for Jason Kelce to play center.
Yeah, right.
We can play his brother twice.
He ain't going nowhere.
I think if he gets traded, he'd probably just retire.
Probably.
I agree.
But he gets to play his brother twice a year.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, did you guys know Phil's on 104.3?
Yeah, he took over D-Mac's spot.
Yeah. I've listened to him.
He's paired up with Zach By at noon, I believe.
Oh, is that what one it is?
No, it's the drive.
Yeah, he was on the drive. He took over for D-Mac.
Oh, yeah.
And who is he running with now?
Zach By.
On the drive?
Yeah, and now Brandon Stokely's with Josh Dover from
That's right.
Sports. Yeah.
And they're at noon, right?
Yeah. And it's still Schlereth and Evans in the morning. So
Yeah, I've heard a couple takes from Phil. I mean, I like the honesty out of the man. I appreciate that.
yeah,
He's definitely got definitely a way better perspective than anybody else can on this team
he's the
or on
hometown kid, man.
out there. You know.
Very widely respected man. Hometown kid.
Yeah.
Loves Denver sports. So, I mean, he's one of us that grew up. He's one of us that got to grow up and live the dream for a little bit.
Yeah.
And now he's one of us again. So, all right, we're going pretty late. Do you guys want to do quick score predictions real fast?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's get back into it. I'll go first. I had them winning this game, even with Aaron Rodgers. And so far, I am 4-0 on predictions.
That is true.
Yeah, your prediction is on the season through 11 weeks is panning out perfectly.
Yeah. So
I guess you could say.
I'm going to remain constant with it. I do think this defense comes together a little bit more. It's not going to be great, but there's no other direction to go than up from that Dolphins game. That is the lowest of the low as far as defenses go. I don't think we're going to see it again this season where somebody puts 70 points up on us. I don't know. That seems unfortunately, it doesn't seem too far-fetched, but I don't think it's going to happen again, to be honest. And if it does, I'll be the first to admit I was wrong. But I'm going to stick with my predictions. I've been 4-0. I'm taking
Can't change now.
I'm taking the Broncos. Our offense can score 30 points. We've done it twice, so 31-21. Broncos.
I like it. See, I'm there with you, Zach. I'm on the Broncos win on this week. Mainly, I don't think Zach Wilson gets it done. I mean, half of his stats and touchdowns on the season were literally last week. He has looked atrocious this season. But I do think they're going to be able to move the ball because our defense has also looked atrocious this season. They're going to be able to put up some points, but I think it's going to be a little lower scoring than you think, Zach. I'm going to say.
Now I think about it, the Jets do have a good defense.
I'm going to say 24-17 Broncos.
I'll change mine. I don't think you're going to score 30 points. That I forgot about how good the Jets defense was.
They're top 3 probably.
17-14.
So I do agree. I think the defense is going to start showing a little more life. The offense is going to stay constant, but this is the best defense the Broncos offense we've seen so far. Like kind of leaps and bounds. And Zach Wilson, yeah, I mean, he's been obviously really bad. But the biggest name that scares me, and I'm probably going to go put some money down to try to benefit off of it, I think Breece Hall is going to run circles around the defense. Like he is, and they announced this week, Robert Saleh said that there is no more snap count on him. There's no more limitations on him. Nice. He's full go. And it's probably because Dalvin Cook hasn't looked good either. And with how this run defense, like Khalil Herbert was having a not good season either. He ran all over the Broncos last week. Could not be stopped. And Breece Hall is 10 times the player that Khalil Herbert is. I think the offense is going to score points. Nothing crazy, even though this is a good defense. I just don't think that the Broncos offense or the Broncos defense is going to be able to even slow down Breece Hall. Like, I think he's going to run wild. And
he's on my fantasy, so that'll be good.
Start him for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
he's gonna. I think he's gonna
Knowing
torch
my
the.
luck with the Broncos, they're going to figure it out, and he's going to get like 30 yards.
Maybe you never know. Well, do you guys remember last year was he was playing the Broncos when he tore his ACL
Mm-hmm. He was having
after
a phenomenal game, I
Right.
believe.
after like an 80-yard run on like the first drive of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after that, tore his ACL. So I don't think. I think the Broncos offense seeing the first like real true test of the season might be a little overwhelming for them. I think the Jets are a really well coached team. They have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Obviously lacking in quarterback play with Zach Wilson, but I think run game. I mean, what do they always say? Run game and defense. That's what wins a lot of games, wins championships. And I think that it's going to be too much for the Broncos defense to be able to slow down, because if they're going to be getting torched like Bryce Hall will probably torch them, like Zach Wilson's been able, I mean, even though he's been bad, like throw it up to Garrett Wilson. And Garrett Wilson's been able to do some things. So hopefully PS2 is just shadowing Garrett Wilson, because that's really the only other like real pass catching weapon that you're going to have to worry about. Based on what we've seen so far, that's probably not going to be the case. So I think I don't think the Broncos can pull this one out. I think they can, but I don't think they will. I'm going to say 24-20. Broncos get a chance in the end to go down and win it all with a touchdown. They're not going to be able to do it with a field goal. And I think the best defense they've seen so far this season is going to be able to
Do
hold
we
them.
see vintage Russ come out finally and win us that game? Because he hasn't done it yet with the Broncos.
No. He's tried a couple times, but I just.
I mean, he almost did with the Commanders.
I'm glad. The way the Broncos won last week with the comeback was great, but I just can't get over who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Sorry. The way they came back and beat the Bears last week, I just can't get behind it because of who they beat. Like, I just can't get behind the fact that they still probably should have lost that game. Even after the comeback was done, they still should have lost it. Just how incompetent that whole Bears coaching staff is ruined that for them. I don't know. I think the Jets will pull it out 24-20.
It's fair.
Yeah, can't blame you for thinking that way.
Realistic, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, everything you said, I agree. I mean,
Right.
Unfortunately, I'm leaning towards that's more realistic of a prediction. And
I'm
what
learning that
is most likely is going to happen. So
I'm learning that when I get optimistic, it never goes good. So I'll just like continue to think they're going to lose, and if they pull out a win, it just makes me feel better.
well, I think we're all going to be on the same page Thursday. So because it's a short week, so
Oh, that's right.
Arrowhead, yeah.
Mhm.
So
Oh, goodness.
Short week in Kansas City against Kansas City.
yeah, so
What a way to So if you don't get a win this week and get some momentum building,
you're going to play the Packers after that, and then the bye week.
Mhm.
which Lambeau's still
Packers
not an easy
bye
place.
week
No,
Chiefs.
Packers, Chiefs, then bye week.
That's
yeah,
right.
you play
That's
Chiefs
right.
again. That's right.
Yeah.
What a brutal schedule before the bye week.
Yeah. And
If
then
you lose this Jets game, you could almost count the next 3 out. I don't think if you lose this Jets game, I don't think you're going to have the motivation to go win the Packers game.
Yeah, and
Coming off
Lambeau's
the
no
short week
easy
loss.
place to go play. I mean, it's still tough to play.
I think it's here.
Is
Let's see.
Is it?
Yeah, it's home game.
Oh, okay. Well, that might change it up then. I thought it was in Lambeau for some reason.
But if you
so
lose
that's
to the
good.
Jets, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's true. If you lose to the Jets, like
This is a must-win game. I hate to say it this early in the season, but if you want to have some kind of hope on not necessarily playoffs, but like winning a handful or more games, you got to win this game. You want to build some
Jets
culture.
yeah, right. if you lose to the Jets, like your confidence going into the Chiefs game is
because you know what the Jets players and coaches and fans are thinking. They're like, "Oh, it was rough last week. They played good, but at least we get the Broncos this week." Like that's what they're thinking.
Right.
So, but I think the Broncos are home favorites, aren't they?
Probably.
I think they're
probably 3.5.
They're 3-point home favorites.
That makes sense. So they're saying it's a toss-up. You get 3 for being home.
Yeah. Alrighty, gents. I think we should call it because it's getting pretty
excuse
late.
me. 1.5-point favorites
at
home.
Nice.
They think the Jets are going to win.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, they're giving the people that bet the Jets like a nice plus over the
Yep.
But alrighty, gents, it's getting pretty late, so I think we should call it. Good talk today. Bottom line up front, I'm going to put my trust into Sean and the ownership group, and I'm just going to
hope for the best.
Root for my team like I should be, and like I want to be. Just hope for the best. Still going to be watching. So, that's where I'm at. So, but thank you guys for doing this with me. I really appreciate it. I also learned that the drive-in movie theater, Mr. James over here, told me that the drive-in movie theater by the flea market is still open.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I thought it closed down.
I was just made aware today that they will be playing some kind of Taylor Swift Eras Tour video concert, something over the next couple weekends. So my daughter has requested to go, and I'm a Swiftie at heart, so we are going.
Yes.
Anthony's
a Swiftie.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Taylor Swift was a point of conversation at my job before she was fooling around in the NFL, and not a fan. But I'm also a boy dad, so I understand you as a girl dad, you got to do what you got to do. So I respect it.
Now.
But yeah, so you learn something new every day, I guess. So I might have to go check that out. But anyways, guys, appreciate you guys coming on here with me, talking about our beloved Broncos. Can't wait for the Nuggets. Can't wait for the Avalanche.
We ought to start calling this podcast the Couch Potato Sports Denver Broncos therapy session.
I know, right? I know. We got to start having a couch with okay, this is how much we charge for 90-minute sessions.
Yep.
I know, exactly. Right? And then we invite people on and they're crying and we're like, it's okay. I know. We're going to tank for Caleb. Don't worry.
Football therapist.
Don't worry.
It's exactly. Alrighty, gents. Appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for watching too that are on YouTube. Like always, till we die, go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Yes.